Hi everyone, my name is Jackie, and I am a practicum therapist at the Student Counseling Center. I wanted to take some time to really get into mindfulness today. What is it? How is it useful? How has it been useful? How have people engaged in mindfulness? And how can it be useful now when we're all collectively experiencing a pandemic that is so deeply impactful in so many ways? But before we get into it, I kind of just want to, throw out there to give a like and a subscribe to the Student Counseling Center's YouTube page to get a lot more information and support in the way that you may need. To get started, we really need to know what mindfulness is exactly. I know before doing research on mindfulness, I thought mindfulness was some vague concept related to yoga or meditation, but mindfulness is a little more complicated than that. Mindfulness is both an innate trait and ability for someone to be aware of their internal and external experiences. Now, what does that mean exactly? Let's break down that first part of the definition, okay? Um, so, how can mindfulness be both an ability and a trait? Well, like a personality trait, some people tend to be more mindful than others, similar to how some people may naturally be more extroverted or introverted than other people. Um, Everyone has some level of mindfulness, however, that isn't fixed. Um, Kind of like an ability or a skill, this is something that we can build and work on strengthening, kind of like a muscle. The second half of the definition is talking about the awareness of our experiences internally and externally. So, what does that mean? External experiences mean things that are happening in our environment. For example, if you were to go somewhere, you might take in the scenery, right? You'll want to take in what you see, hear, smell, or even taste. The internal experience are your feelings and thoughts in that moment. Feeling happiness or peace or agitation or frustration. Attending to those feelings brings awareness to your internal experience. So, what does mindfulness actually look like? If we take the components of mindfulness that I had just talked about and put them together, it looks like being in an environment, having awareness of the environment, and being able to be present in that moment. What do you see, hear, taste, smell, and feel? What are feelings that are coming up for you right now in that moment? Are you feeling agitated? Where do you feel the agitation in your body? Do you notice tension in your shoulders? What emotions are associated with those feelings? And the thing is, this is really, really hard. When we're in an environment like being in college, for example, we're conditioning ourselves to go, go, go. We may constantly be thinking about what is the next assignment, what is my grade for the class, what is my financial aid situation going to look like. I haven't reached out to friends in a while. When was the last time I ate or drank water? I'm running on coffee, 3 hours of sleep, and pure willpower. Um, but these thoughts can often bring us away from being in that present moment. And before we realize it, we've been tense or on edge all day, or we get home, wherever home may be, and are feeling more exhausted than we thought we even could be. So, how can mindfulness be useful? Mindfulness can be useful in so many ways. There is a lot of research out there that shows that mindfulness can help decrease stress, can help regulate emotions, decrease anxiety. I've also conducted a study. I've actually did research on the impacts of certain coping mechanisms on affect or our feelings or how we convey our feelings. And similarly to the research that is already out there, I have found that engaging in mindfulness, whether, and we'll get into this later, whether it's, guided meditation or other ways to be mindful, that it really does decrease our perceived stress and it decreases our negative affect. So the negative feelings that we may have, like sadness, anger, frustration, irritability, those things tend to decrease when we engage in mindfulness. So that is definitely one way it can be useful. And so all of that again is just really fancy talk for mindfulness, being able to help decrease feelings, like I said, like anger, fear, guilt, nervousness, and again, decrease how much stress we believe to have in our current state. In addition to those things, when we are able to be present in the moment, we also benefit in our relationships with others. When we are able to be present and fully be there with another person, we can connect with them in a way that we might not if we're preoccupied with thoughts that aren't related to the moment. Like some examples I provided earlier about, being a college student and, when is my next exam? Have I studied enough for it? I haven't gotten enough sleep. Those things can really take us away from connecting with the people that we care about. And so, imagine the most impactful relationships in your life, right? Those people are more likely to be very mindful with you, that family member or loved one or mentor or friend or partner, take a moment to reflect on, if those people tended to be there for you and attend to you fully. The people that we think are the most warm and the most supportive are usually able to be there for us completely and presently with us. And mindfulness contributes to that. So what are ways I can engage in mindfulness? There are a lot of different ways we can engage. There are definitely more traditional things we think about when it comes to engaging in mindfulness, like yoga, meditation, and deep breathing. And they're common, tried and true ways that can build that mindfulness muscle and contribute to the benefits that we discussed before. And there are also other ways we use our bodies to regulate any tension or racing thoughts or other signs of stress and anxiety. Deep breathing and attending to our bodily sensations can help us regulate our body's reactions to stressors. And this is because there's an innate mind-body connection, right? This is why when we release physical tension from our bodies, like unclenching our jaw or relaxing our shoulders, or doing stretches, we can feel emotionally maybe more at ease. Or even vice versa, if we are presented with a stressful situation like cramming for an exam or being in the process of taking that exam, we may tense up physically, and this is also kind of tied to attending to the thoughts and emotions too, right? If we acknowledge what is causing us stress and anxiety, it can become easier to move through that kind of physical reaction. Movement is another way we can practice mindfulness. I know movement is a pretty vague or broad idea, but movement can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people. For some people, that might be really intense goat yoga, and that's their way of moving around. For other people, that can be stretching your body or taking walks, things that might be more helpful or accessible. For some people, it might be exercise, whatever exercise may look like for them or for you. Again, movement can look like a lot of different things, and there is no wrong answer. And again, like I said, some of these examples may not feel accessible right now or may feel even more inaccessible because of this pandemic, and I want to acknowledge that. There are some awesome free resources online, like mindfulness apps or guided meditation videos on YouTube, that can help when we may not feel safe enough to go outside or into public spaces. I attached a pretty popular guided meditation video that can also be found on YouTube as an example. Instead of playing it right now, I'll find a way to provide a link in the description box, so that way if you do feel like trying out a different way to maybe be more grounded or be more in the present moment, you have that resource for you. And so, just to kind of describe what that video is, it's just this really short 5-minute guided meditation, and you can find videos that range from 5 minutes to an hour. Choose one that you feel comfortable with. For those that may want to try it, again, the link will be in the description box. So, yeah, I highly encourage all of you to try it. Lastly, I want to emphasize that you can engage in mindfulness doing what you love. The common theme here is attending to your internal and external experience. You can do that while knitting, gardening, trying something creative. Where are my creative folks at? Because I wish that was me. Again, it's the internal process you're going through to attend to what you're doing. What's going on around you and how you feel and think in the present moment. Now, this may feel a little bit of a left turn, but another way we can engage in mindfulness is ASMR. I want to continue the theme of accessible resources to mindfulness activities, similar to the apps and guided meditation videos that you can find just anywhere on the internet. ASMR is extremely accessible. I know some folks may be familiar with ASMR content, but I also know that there are some people that may have no idea what that is. So this is also a large topic that is covered in my own research. And so just to provide a little bit of background information, ASMR is short for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. And that term is specifically talking about like that tingly sensation you get when you hear maybe a really pleasant sound or something that is very visually appealing, or when a certain texture feels really nice. This is the reason why a lot of mainstream content like slime videos, whisper videos, mukbangs, cooking videos, just to name a few, can be super, super popular. Seeing soap cut up by a box cutter in a certain way, or watching slime being pulled apart, or listening to someone eat. Some people really love that, some people really hate that, but it can be really satisfying. But how does this all relate to mindfulness? How does ASMR relate to mindfulness? Well, if you recall, one of the ways in which we engage in mindfulness is attending to our senses, right? So it makes sense that using videos that emphasize visual or auditory stimuli can draw our focus and potentially contribute to some of the benefits of mindfulness activities, like the decreased negative affect or decreased stress, which in my study that I had conducted, people who did watch ASMR did experience decreased negative affect and decreased stress, similarly to those who engaged in traditional guided meditation and things like that. So again, there are so many different ways to engage in mindfulness, and if you want a really unique way to do that, try ASMR. And so, again, I'll most likely post this video in the description box, but kind of to provide an example of how varied ASMR can be, is Bob Ross. Iconic, right? Why is he so pleasant to listen to? The soothing voice, the sound of the brushstrokes, the visual appeal of the paint on the canvas, and the finished product can all be considered components of ASMR media. And so this video, I know it looks like just a big black box on the screen, but it's in true Bob Ross form, painting happy little trees, and a lot of people find that really soothing. So how effective is guided meditation, ASMR, mindfulness? How effective is all of that really? Whether it's Bob Ross, guided meditation, yoga, taking a walk, how helpful is it? Can it actually help? The short answer is yeah, but it can be really complicated too. When we're having reactions to stressors, um, you know, cognitively, our body enters this fight, flight, or freeze mode. Now, this is super helpful when there's tangible, acute stress, like a bear attacking you in the woods. However, our body has these reactions to other types of stress too. Chronic psychosocial stress, like the stress of being a student, um, and especially being a student living in a pandemic, um, activates our nervous system the same way as the threat of a physical bear. However, unlike the physical presence of a bear, there's not a tangible, concrete way to remove that stressor. Um, so we are continuously stressed, and our body continues to send messages to the body that we need to fight, fight, or run. I said fight, fight, or run. Fight, run, or freeze. That's not as effective when the stressor is anticipating taking an exam or going to the grocery store and fearing potential discrimination based on, race or ethnicity. Those are stressors that, can't be fixed by simply running away or fighting or freezing. So, when we intentionally engage in deep breathing or attending to the thoughts, feelings, and sensations, what we are doing is calming down the nervous system by that mind body connection, right? And so that can help ease our brains out of that autopilot. And like I said before, mindfulness, as it's contributing to easing our bodies and our minds, it can be decreasing that negative affect and perceived stress. So, I want to acknowledge that mindfulness isn't like an end all be all solution to um, making our stress and our anxiety um, disappear. And especially in this pandemic right now, I really want to answer this question. If you are engaging in it, why isn't it helping me right now? Um, and so, like I've said before, mindfulness is a skill that we have to work towards developing, strengthening, and maintaining. One guided meditation or ASMR video probably won't increase your mindfulness exponentially. There's a lot of research out there that shows feelings of happiness, joy, excitement, um, and being mindful is particularly difficult when we're feeling dysregulated. Feeling positive affect can be so hard when you are preoccupied with stressors that cause a fight, flight, or freeze response. And like I said, we're in a pandemic, okay? So maybe yoga or meditation or other coping skills that might have come easier to you in the past or might have been more accessible in the past. Keep in mind we're in uncharted territory. Um, and that is super scary and super difficult to navigate. It makes sense that our coping mechanisms in the past, like yoga, exercise, and other things, might not be working right now. And on top of that, attending to how we feel and attending to our environment can be especially hard right now. There is a lot of uncertainty and valid fear about what's happening, and a lot of us are doing what we can to make it to the next day. And that's okay. Be gentle with yourself as you find coping skills that work for you in this moment, in this pandemic, in this um, very different, uncharted territory. So, using mindfulness during a pandemic. So, while Bob Ross, ASMR, or other coping mechanisms might not help you feel like 100%, it can definitely be helpful in slowing your body and your mind down. If or when you do feel ready, attend to the sounds and visual cues. Perhaps you'll find that stress becomes a little bit more manageable. Feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation may not feel as intense or as present. And so, when we do engage in mindfulness, we can more easily attend to our physical and emotional reactions to the world around us. Once we are able to do that, we can move through our emotions with more compassion and more care. So I want to provide some other resources for mindfulness on a few different platforms, right? So on YouTube, there's a couple of videos that are really informative about mindfulness. And so there's a video called Why Mindfulness is a Superpower, and it's an animation that's really short. And then I've also attached, I also have a link to a TED Talk about mindfulness and how practicing it can make you stronger. Um, Also, I know that a lot of you may be using Instagram or other social media platforms, but for Instagram specifically, a few pages that I personally follow and have mental health professionals backing them are pages like the Nap Ministry, Mindful Counseling, Mindfulness underscore Psychology. All of these are really great to have when if we are kind of in that ether of social media. Seeing a post from pages like this can be really helpful to ground us. A couple of other websites or pages that can be helpful in finding mindfulness activities or just providing more information about mindfulness. There's mindful.org and pocketmindfulness.com. And so they provide different ways to engage in mindfulness and just, again, some more information about what mindfulness is and kind of some of the history behind it. And if you wanted to look into some of the articles that I use to really, have a foundation for this webinar, here are some references. They are all free to access online. And so if you would like to use those, again, feel free. And so that kind of concludes the, mindfulness presentation that I have for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments. If you have any feedback or just general reactions to this webinar, please let us know. Leave comments so that way we know what's helpful for y'all and what's not helpful for y'all, what y'all want to hear more about. We definitely want to be here for all of you during this really difficult time. And again, just want to plug, leave a like and a subscribe to our page so that way you have more, you get notifications and you get more content related to how to move through this difficult time. So with that, I hope you all have a grounded and peaceful, good day. And if not, I'm so happy that you're here, and I have a lot of hope that not just you but me will make it to the next day. So have a good one.